Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the January 28th, 2026 meeting of the Finance Committee. This is a hybrid meeting, so roll call votes will be required. And this meeting is being recorded to assist in the preparation of minutes. We are expecting potentially a couple of our members to join us online, but they are not here yet. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. And establish quorum. Nate?
Here.
John?
Here.
Bob?
Here.
Melissa?
Here.
And I'm here as well, so we have a 5-0 quorum. We have no public attending tonight and no transfers. So we will move directly into agenda item number 4, which is an update on wastewater. Oh, I love pieces of paper with
We're
small print.
paper tonight, but I will put this up on the board because I learned I'm good at sharing this.
Be careful.
Professional.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was watching somebody try to navigate a new screen where the size of the box that they were trying to check into was about that big.
So my update is really this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was holding the line.
All right, do you guys, if somebody comes in, I'll share my screen, but are we good just going through the?
Yeah.
You want me to share the screen? I just want to make sure what everybody's comfortable with. Hold on, maybe, you know what, let me share it just in case. I was doing well.
You did really well last week.
Can you help me?
Yeah, hit share.
I hit share,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to get to my, just my regular,
Documents at the top then?
yeah, like. I just want my screen. I don't know why I can't, you know, just like my regular home screen. I have it on,
Oh, so, X out of
okay.
it, and then minimize. And then open up.
Oh, that's what
Yeah.
it is. I didn't open it up. Okay. See,
It's
and I thought I was,
back in the Zoom.
And you can hit share.
And now you can expand that. No.
not share. There we go. That's what I,
Yep. There.
all right.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
That's what I did. Okay, so my update is going to be a verbal one. With this one spreadsheet. I just want to start off with, this is a very complicated project. There's a lot going on here. So I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible, but answer everybody's questions. So let me just start from the beginning. You know, a few years ago, it was before I started, but we authorized $207,244 for a wastewater, the SOAR project. The SOAR project has 6 contracts in there. We're going to bid out 6 contracts within this 207 million. Contract 1 is the wastewater treatment plant, the actual plant itself. Then you have contracts 2 through 6, which is the collection system. I'm not good at the map and, you know, where we're digging and everything, but I think everybody understands that. When we went to start this project, there were some delays and we bid out contracts 2 and 3. That was Robert B. Hour. That's what you've seen working a lot the last couple of years, and Rivoli. Robert B. Hour's contract 2, Rivoli is contract 3. DEP gave us the authorization to start building the collection system before we start building the wastewater treatment plant. We started building that. Then we bid out contract 1, the wastewater treatment plant, and we started, and we're not in the middle of it. I think maybe a year in right now with the wastewater treatment plant. So with that being said, when they were looking at this project, the $207 million, we're planning on principal forgiveness. And there were two places that we were getting, two organizations that we were getting principal forgiveness from. One of them was the Mass Clean Water Trust, who were borrowing through. So to back up a little bit, we're borrowing the $207 million through the Clean Water Trust at 0% financing. We're not going out to market for this, so we have 0%. We're on what's called an intended use plan. So when you first fill out an application, you know, when you start a project and you fill out an application and you say, okay, I want to build a SOAR, phase 1, and I want to apply to the Clean Water Trust for 0% financing. You start that paperwork through DEP, and then it goes to the trust, and DEP puts what's called on an intended use plan. And then it's authorized, and there's a lot of steps that go through that. Now, they approved the 207 million, DEP and the trust, but they don't put it on every year. They only will let you borrow in $50 million increments. So in the first IUP, you have 50 million, like in 2023, 2024, you have the second 50 million, 2025, the third 50 million. So that's kind of how it gets borrowed in those increments. Right now, where it stands is that I'm filling out the paperwork for the third $50 million. Now, it's not as clean with the paperwork with DEP and the trust, where we're like, okay, here's contracts 2 and 3. What did they come in at? Contract 1, what's that coming in at? They approve a $50 million project, a budget, and then as you expend out the budgeted line item for whatever that is, you can roll that, if you don't spend it, you roll that money into another line item. So that gets super complicated. I even have to do a double take on that, the paperwork that we give to DEP. So I'm just gonna, and I'll get back to that as I go through the spreadsheet. So I can update you on the budget, but that's kind of what we're dealing with. The way that we pay for this project, and just to tell you a little bit about the process, we have our engineers are CDM Smith. Our project manager is Wright Pierce. CDM Smith every month prepares what's called the BMF 1000, and it's a package that goes to DEP. So what they do is they put all the invoices in for a month, the construction invoices, you know, like from Rivoli or Robert B. Hour right now. And then we have, I think it's Nickerson that's doing contract 1. They have all the details in there. They have their invoices in there. Well, that's a separate contract. I won't, under DEP, I won't get into that. So what they do is they put all that together. The package of invoices, no lie, are this thick on a monthly basis. They give it to accounting. Our accounting department audits that, and then we pay all the bills. Meanwhile, we send that package to DEP. DEP goes through it with a fine-tooth comb. They always have 50 million questions, and they have issues, and they go back and forth with the engineer. And then 4 to 6 weeks later, no lies, they'll say, okay, now we're going to move that package onto the trust. We've approved it. We've already paid the invoices because we're under contract with these contractors. So we have a certain amount of time where we have to pay the invoices, and then we get the money in from the trust. So that's kind of how it all flows. So when managing this project, I'm managing really the cash flow of this project. I can't get more than 2 or 3 months behind. The stack of invoices on a monthly basis are anywhere from $4 to $6 million. So this is a hefty project that we're moving through. So with that being said, I just wanted to give you like a taste of all the work that kind of goes into it from our office. And that's just managing the financials of this project. I've done projects like this in the past. I did a SOAR project in Falmouth when we expanded our wastewater treatment facility, and then was called Little Pond, I believe, and then we laid the pipes for the collection system on the expanded wastewater treatment facility. The difference with that project, and this was like probably 8 or 9 years ago, And we were also building, and I'm just telling you this to context of how things have changed. We were building a $48 million water treatment plant at the same time, and we were borrowing all this through the trust, water at 2%, sewer 0%. I would get the package from DPW. I would run it down to the town manager's office and get it signed. Within 24 hours, I had it out to DEP. Within a week, I had the money in from the trust. Here, I have a similar process in place. When I get the paperwork to have Bob Rittenauer sign it, I come down here and I have him sign it right away. It's never sitting in the office less than 24 hours. So I can get that out to DEP so I can get the money in and get that cash flow moving. So we have a very tight process in here that, you know, that we all adhere to with accounting. And if I'm not here, Maria's here. And we have good relationships with our engineers and our project managers, and we meet quite often. So that's kind of the process of this project, if you will. So let me go over the wastewater project cash flow. Now, this is something that I developed and then I update, and the only way I update it really is towards pre-funding. I haven't updated it yet with contracts because of the way DEP and the budget's working. It's hard to update this with actual costs to date. So let me walk you through this and tell you where we're at from this. So right now, if you look at the top where it says wastewater cash flow, these were the budgeted amounts. We had 42 million for contracts 4, 5, and 6, 130 million for the treatment plant, 35 million for contracts 2 and 3 for a total of 207. It was 207, 244. I'm not leaving that off. Now the principal forgiveness. We have two, like I said, we have two areas where we're receiving principal forgiveness. We receive principal forgiveness from the Clean Water Trust because we're a tier 2 community, and that's usually around 6.6% of what we're borrowing. We also receive principal forgiveness from the Clean Water Protection Fund. Now, the Clean Water Protection Fund is only for the Cape Cod. And what happened is when we voted to tax short-term rentals, a portion of that, only for the Cape, goes into what's called the Water Protection Fund. I believe that's it. And that is governed by a representative from each community. And they use that money to pay for wastewater. And the way that they pay for wastewater is that they give the money to the Clean Water Trust. And the Clean Water Trust, when they do our debt schedules, gives us additional principal forgiveness over the 6.6%. So the Water Protection Fund has said, we're going to give you 25% principal forgiveness on these projects. And so
A lot of money,
it is a lot of money.
like that, when you think of that, that's their only source?
Yes, I believe so. And, you know, they're investing it and things like that.
That was Mr. Anderson
Sorry.
speaking. Yeah, just from
Yeah.
because when Jackie gets these minutes, gets the video and you're not on the camera, she goes like, who said that?
So that's how I developed the wastewater cash flow. And this is a projection, right? So when I project out, plans change. So right now, we have the tier 2 forgiveness on all the contracts, Water Protection Fund. And so the way that it works is that when the trust gives you, I mean, like I said, there's a lot going on here. So let me take this for example. When you start paying back these loans, the trust makes that determination. They say to you, okay, we want you to start paying back the principal of these loans. And the way they make that determination is usually when you're about 50% or more complete with the project. Now, since this is in $50 million increments, the first $50 million has already come about. It came about last year, and they said, you know what? You need to start paying this back. And so what they do is at that point, when we received, and I'm going to go off a little bit just to tell you where we're at. So they said, you know, we need you to start paying it back in 2027. One of the issues with this project is it's not bringing in revenue because we don't have a water treatment plant up and running, and we're not taking sewer flow. right? We do have some pre-funding set aside. We do have money coming in from the WIF. We have money coming in from the DIP, and we have money coming in from short-term rental. So I'll say that's our pre-funding. Now, before I got here, I guess there were meetings with the Clean Water Trust saying, you know what, we're building out the collection system first because you said we could, and we won't be bringing money in from the water treatment plant right away. So we don't want to have to start paying it back right away. So when the first 50 million came due, Bob and I worked with the trust, wrote a letter, told them, you know, we don't have a lot of revenue. We don't have any revenue coming in. You said you'd work with us. And we wrote this letter. They were great. We worked with Sue Perez, who's the director, and Nate Keenan, who's the assistant director. And they came up with a funding schedule, and you will see this. I have to adjust the budget, but you'll see this in the wastewater enterprise fund this year. And what they did was they used some of the money from the water protection fund to pay off the first 2 years. And so we won't see a large principal payment until year 3. So not 27, 20, in 29 we will. So I will tell you the first 50 million has come due. We're below, you know, we're really spending the money. The second 50 million is going to come due. We'll deal with it when that happens. So when you look at, so when they tell you the $50 million is due, what they do is they take the principal forgiveness off the top, and then they'll do a debt schedule. So, but most recently in the past year, the Water Protection Fund doesn't have a lot. They have a lot of cash up front, but they can't just give us the 25% like to the trust and then us take it off the top. So what they're going to do is they're going to give it to us, I think, over a 30-year period every year. And it's not going to, and the reason why you usually don't do that is because you have interest, right? So if they're going to give it every year, you'd rather bond a lower principal payment than bond the full principal payment and then have principal and interest, and then they're paying that off because you have higher interest. Here, since it's 0% interest, it really won't make a difference. They're just going to give it to us every year. So that's a change in the funding schedule. But I've taken everything off the top for the wastewater cash flow because we haven't really determined that yet. They did it for the first 50 million, but we need to get a little bit more information on that. Okay. So with that said,
So just to clarify, so we're not really going to be paying any debt service, principal service until 2029.
yes.
Okay.
You can see here, I do have it in 2027 because I'm keeping this. Because we're not done with contracts 2 and 3. When we're done, completely done with contracts 2 and 3, I'll adjust these numbers, but we're not done. So I'm not going to keep adjusting them because it's hard to tie out to the way how we're dealing with this whole project. But this does give you the full picture. So, okay, so then that's where we're at with that. So we take the principal off the top. So we also received a $3.5 million MassWorks grant. And the way that works is our authorization to borrow is 207 million. And so when we receive a grant, we reduce that 207 grant. We're not increasing it. So we're not saying, oh, we can still pay, spend the 207. And in addition, we get the grant. It comes off the top. That's the way it has to be done. So you'll see that I have a $3.5 million MassWorks grant up here.
And how is that paid to us?
So the way that we have to do the MassWorks grant, we've already tapped it out. We get the package in from CDM Smith, all the invoices, and we have to fill out all these forms. And in one of the forms, it will say alternate funding source. But we're telling you, these are the bills. This is what we need reimbursed from you, but this is an alternate funding source. But we have to, we let DEP know. When we fill out all the paperwork for these loans, I have like an 8 or 9 page questionnaire I have to fill out and let them know where the funding sources are coming from, if there's an alternate funding source. So they actually track all that, even though it really kind of has nothing to do with them, right? Like, why would they care? They do care and they want to know. So, so what happens is when we put those, say we have $6 million in bills for that month, we'll ask for 5 million from the trust, and then we take $1 million from the grant. that make sense?
That makes sense,
So we
okay.
we do it that way.
So it really sort of, again, it's right up front.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
Upfront. So let me get back, so let me start talking about the financing plan. So when the financing plan was put together for this project, it really was just, these were the funding sources we're gonna use, this is what we have, and this is what it's gonna cost. But one of the catch-alls here is that you're using betterments. So if you look at the spreadsheet, I'll go through it line by line. So you have the WIF. That was something that was done a number of years ago. I think we reduced the amount that we were taxing for CPC, and we took that money and we put it into the wastewater infrastructure fund. So that comes, I think, from the tax bills. And that's what we've got. These are actual numbers that we got in 22, 23, 24, and 25.
When you say so Community Preservation Act?
No, it was something, it was before I started. It's the wastewater infrastructure fund. And I think what they did was usually it was like 3% for CPC that they would tax you on. Now they only tax you 2%, but that 1% went in. They still tax you the 3%, but 1% goes into the WIF.
Okay,
I believe that's how it happened. Then you have the short-term rental tax. There is a portion of the short-term rental that goes into the wastewater stabilization fund. And those are actual numbers from 2023, 2024, and 2025. And then you can see I projected out 1.4 million. On the WIF, I projected out, I think it was 2% every year. It's 2.5%, because the levy's 2.5%, so I just compound that we get more money in every year. Then we have the DIF, the district increment financing. And I'm not sure if you know what that is, but I'll explain it. We went to town meeting, and any new growth that comes from 28, where they're putting in the collection system, we set that aside in district increment financing fund. And we use that to pay the wastewater. So
Can you say that again? Sorry.
So if there's any expansion on Route 28 where they've put the collection system where they'll eventually hook up to the treatment plant, any growth in the businesses there, that new growth, you know how like if you put a garage on your house, your assessment will go up? Well, in the first year, we call that new growth. That's like additional assessment.
Sure.
God bless you. It's additional revenue, right? And then it becomes part of your tax base. It's the same thing with commercial.
Okay.
But we set that aside in a separate fund. It doesn't become part of your levy to pay for the wastewater. So the first year we got 74, and the way it compounds every year. So the first year, the growth from the commercial was 74,790. The second year, it was the difference between the 74,790 and the 103. It's like 25 or 28. It was 28. But we'll always capture that same amount every year. So like every year we're going to capture the 74, and then every year we'll capture the 74 plus 28, and then the next year, you know what I mean? It's always part of
It
the
stays in
Yeah,
there.
it does.
and
You can see how it will. Now, I flatlined this in 2033. That's probably going to go up. If there's a lot of growth down 28 because of the sewer network, I mean, those numbers will go up, but for now, I wanted to be super conservative with my revenue projections. So I capped it at that. I mean, this year we got like 17,000. We're not getting a ton of money. Yes.
well, that's what we heard from the building inspector, is that there's a
Exactly.
there's a
I'm just
whole
gonna go-
number of people sort of on the fence waiting for 2020, waiting for 2028.
Yeah, waiting for the pipes.
Waiting for the plant to
Yeah.
what's in the pipe.
Yes. Yeah, I expect to see a big growth on 28 once because right now it's $1 million
Thank you.
to put in a good storage system.
Okay. So that's the district increment financing. And then betterments. I used a projection that they used when they first came up with the financing plan. They think, about $1.1 million a year. Now, the issue with this is the water treatment plant is only permitted, the wastewater treatment plant right now is permitted to take 390,000 gallons a day. Phase 1, you need 900,000 gallons a day if you were going to take all the the storage from phase one, but we're only permitted for 390, right? So we can't better the properties. Because how do you pick and choose that? How are they gonna pick and choose who's gonna part of that 390? Is it gonna be a first come, first serve? And when you do a betterment, you have to capture all the costs and then divide it up by the property. And we've done that. It's somewhat complicated because commercial is dealt with a little bit different than residential. So that's a whole presentation on its own. Now, if you looked at the presentation from Bob Rittenauer, if you look at our capital facility plan presentation, not this April, but next April, you're going to see a warrant article for about $35 million. And that's to discharge to Bayberry Hills from the treatment plant. That will bring you up to, I think, about two, if that's fully permitted, bring you up to about 2 million gallons a day, which will be phase 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
Okay, so right now, the treatment plant is being built for 3 phases, for 2 million gallons a day. Right now, it's only permitted for 390. So we can't really better the properties. You can't better a property until they can hook up, because it's a benefit to them, right? So since we've started building the collection system before we can start actually taking the flow, we can't just say, okay, you know what, we're gonna go better you so we can get this $1 million in next year. We don't have the full cost, plus they can't hook up, plus they can't take the treatment. You know, they can't take the treatment until the treatment plant is built. Now, the treatment plant,
You're saying that the treatment plant will only take a third of the output,
yes,
possible output.
yes.
yeah.
When it's built, when it's finished.
Yeah.
Now, the treatment plant will start testing the flow. I think it's 2 years from this fall. I think
Right.
that's what it is.
Right, so that'd be fall of 2028.
Yeah, and then it will start taking the flow, and then there's a whole thing that goes with that, right? But until we can actually better contracts 2 through 6, which is when Bayberry Hills is done, that's when we'll assess the betterments. So you're not gonna get the betterment money in too much later than what I have on the spreadsheet. So I'm just telling you, that's what's up with the betterments.
But that's gonna slip like maybe 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then the other part of the financing plan is, I think they were gonna put a 25% surcharge on the wastewater bill. And this is what they planned on getting in. So once you get say you're in the plan and you have to hook up to the sewer, right? And say you hook up, you're gonna start getting a sewer bill, and the flow is based on water or whatever, your usage. They're also gonna put a 25%, like, I hate to use the word tax, but it's a
That's
capital
what it is.
improvement
Let's
on
call it
that
what it is.
to pay for the sewer project. So that's where the 500,000 and the 1 million come in. Okay. So that was the plan. And then we did pre-funding. And you can see the pre-funding to stabilization, that came really from your free cash. So now we move over to the expenses. We have contracts 4, 5, and 6, the wastewater treatment plant, contracts 2 and 3. An origination fee. They actually waived the origination fee for this first 15 million, so I took that off. And then you have an admin fee, trust charges and admin, and then you have current debt. Right now you have some current debt in the wastewater treatment, in the wastewater enterprise. So if you look line by line, that's your cash flow, right? This is when we expect to start paying this off. And I do have to move the betterments down, say 2029. Yeah, might go down a year or 2.
And the
And the
surcharge.
surcharge. Well, the surcharge might move up because if you're taking flow, even if you only have the customers in the 390,000 gallons a day, you will be getting, money for that, and then you'll get that 25%. So if you look at the green is your revenue minus your expenses in that year. The far left column adds it all together into your pre-funding, so it's not by year. So right now you had,
The cumulative.
yeah, it's a cumulative, so you have your 4.3, and then you bring in the revenue and the expenses. So you can see that's always in the positive. You can see you go into the negative year by year, but the pre-funding will keep you out of that. And that's the plan right now with the whole financial plan. If that makes any sense. So I'm going to stop right there and answer questions.
Just want to give you a round of applause. That sounds so hard to manage all of those pieces.
So I think a couple of, if I might start. So a couple of things on this. We just identified, obviously, some of that has to slip. There were supposedly, let me go back to the big cost questions. So one of the concerns is that some combination of delays that we had at the outset and just normal, change order stuff, including the famous pump station 2, could potentially sort of push some of the actual expenditures for the contracts above the 207. Obviously, just independent of the recharge issue.
Right. You want me to address
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to go over the tools. We can't. Now, let me just tell you where we're at with each contract. Contract 1 is doing pretty well. We have a pretty good contingency for contract 1. We did have a large change order because when they started digging into this, and that's where you find the majority of your change orders. Like when you start building a building, or it's usually when you start digging in the soil. So we did have a $1 million change order for that. Actually, it was a lot higher, and we were able to get that down. And the specifics of that, I'm just not privy to. I don't go to the construction meetings every week, but we're doing pretty well on contract 1. That's moving along very well. Contract 2 is definitely over budget, and let me tell you why. They decided to actually add on a neighborhood in contract 2, I believe. And these specifics Jeff can talk about. And so there were adjustments there. First of all, there was one adjustment because when they bid this out, they couldn't award it right away to contracts 2 and 3 because DEP we needed to get the authorization. So they held their prices, but the prices did go up, and that was a couple of years ago. So the first change order was a price adjustment. And then contract 2, they added on a little bit more. Now, remember, if you add on more of the collection system, you're going to get that revenue in down the road. Rob did a great job, but we are definitely over in contract 2 right now. We're
Orders
looking
of magnitude.
probably a couple $1 million.
Couple million.
Will that
Okay.
balance out if you're taking off that neighborhood from?
Yeah, we'll later on.
Okay,
Right, it's a
so-
cash flow issue.
yeah.
Yeah. And also the details. The details are just astronomical. We're probably a couple $1 million over budget in the details.
Sorry, what does that mean?
The police details.
Oh,
So we have budget line items, right? But we also have about 6 million set aside in the budget for paving. So this is our plan, is like, we're over on 2. Contract 3, I can't really talk about right now, Rivoli. There's a lot of things we just don't know. I just can't talk about it, right? There might, I can't talk about it. So anyways, let's set aside contract 3 for a second. But with contract 2, it's being over. We do have money in paving. I think we set aside like $6.5 million. What we will do is, if we feel like we over, because this is a like 3 to 5 year project with like 6 different contracts, right? We still feel like we're in budget, but the places that we can go to are paving, within the 207, and then we pave on our own outside of the budget. We do have like Chapter 90 funds and, the $1 million a year. We can do that. Contract 3, let's set that aside. We're good with contract 4. Contract 5, there's no major issues. Now, contract 6, that's the one where they moved the pump station, right? So when we look at this 207 that we're getting through the Clean Water Trust, this is strictly for construction. design, the Clean Water Trust does not reimburse for design, so this is construction. So there was additional monies needed for design, and we did have, and this is gonna key into a warrant article. So before I started, they borrowed, I think, 2.5 million. There was an article for the wastewater treatment plant. It was like a $4.5 million borrowing article. So they borrowed the money, borrowed like $2.5 million. And then they decided not to use that $2.5 million. They were gonna use ARPA funds to fund some of this design. So that $2 million we have on the books. So we're able to use that for for the design for Bayberry Hills, but we're also able to, what we're going to do is we're gonna transfer that money for the collection system, like 400,000. You'll see a warrant article for that. And we need to do a warrant article, but so we have the funds, and we can't use that for the collection system because the warrant article specifically states the treatment plant. So we're gonna transfer that out to give us a little bit of a cushion that we need, because some of the costs that happened with contract 3, we had to bring some people in and sew some things up, and you'll see that in the April town meeting.
Could I just ask a clarifying question? Because the last time I remember talking about pump six was when we voted the non-binding vote at the special town meeting.
Right, so.
Pump
yeah.
station 2.
Or
Right,
pump station 2,
Yeah.
that falls under that
Contract.
contract 6.
Hmm.
So when did we decide to move it?
All right, so let me, that would be, well, the select board decided to move it.
Okay, so then it was taken into consideration,
Yeah.
so it was at.
Yeah, they took
select
the
board
vote into consideration, and they moved the,
Decided,
yeah,
okay.
so they moved the pumps, and thank you, because I was starting to get off track, because there's so much going on here. So in contract 2, so there was extra money for design for that, because they had to move the pump station, so they had to redesign it. So, but we had money already for that, because we could use the money that they had on books for that, and then I think we had another appropriation. When we bid out contract 6, we thought that we would have an additional cost because we moved the pump station, but actually we didn't. So
Okay.
the budget didn't really go up for construction. We just had to pay the extra in design. So that's kind of where we are with contract 6 right now. So those are the places, and then also with contract 6, we haven't awarded it yet. And we have some alternates in there, so we have to have a meeting to decide if we want to award the alternates or not. That's something that's on the table that we need to discuss, because we want to make sure that, we stay on budget with this. And, so that's where we're at with contract 6 right now.
Okay, so the other big question then is the additional recharge capacity,
You mean discharge?
discharge, yeah, recharge, discharge. So where does that come into the equation?
That will be a debt exclusion. Now, that will be a debt exclusion. It's $35 million, needs to be excluded from Proposition 2. You can't put 200 million, well, you did, but you can't put 35 million and not have like a funding. So it has to be a debt exclusion.
So
that will be, so that's not on here. So that will be, your taxes will be raised for that. I don't know what else to.
So, and what's the funding? So is that going to be a traditional borrow at market rate?
Yes, well, no, all right, so then let me go back to that. So we have to put that on the IUP, so we're gonna apply for funding for that at 0%. So the way that schedule goes is, they'll apply this July, August, for that funding. It's a project evaluation form, and then DEP will issue a draft IUP in December, January to see if they accept the 35 million. And then the final IUP is issued in February, March, where we go to town meeting that April for the 35 million, and then we'll go to the ballot in May. And yeah, because the local funding will need to be in place by June 30th, so this is a year from June. Okay, and then the application is, then you have to do an SRF loan application. It's due that October. And then we'll get a project approval certificate and then, and if they approve it, then, then we're gonna be borrowing through the trust.
So there's potentially 0% interest, 30-year term? Because that's
Yes.
30-year term, 0% interest. And it's the last factor.
It's on Bob's presentation when you look at capital facility
Yeah.
projects.
And that takes it from 390
To
to 2 million?
to 2 million, but the plant will be phase one only takes
900.
900, like
So this
900.
basically buys us capacity for phase 2 and 3.
Yeah,
Or,
I mean, right now, you can't take all of phase one.
right. No, like I say,
Right.
this was when they did the analysis at the Bayberry site, it just blew the engineers away. It's perfect.
And is that the max?
no, so the max is 2 million, so the plant's
That-
being built for 2 million.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, the
Not-
max is 2
max
million
is
for
2
phases 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
When you get into phases 4, 5, 6, because I think it's like 8 phases, then you'll be expanding the treatment plant. And then you'll have to find another district.
And-
Built like a modular, just, yeah.
But it also applies to, I think, to the Bayberry Hills, because I was talking with Scott Gilmore, because they actually maxed out their equipment at the 2 million, and they were still going. It was not even an issue. So he said that there's potentially even a brighter option there. So subject to DEP approval.
Gonna be a pretty big warrant.
Yeah, a year from, not this April, a year from April.
Importance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we're keeping an eye on it, entrenched in this. I will tell you, the principal forgiveness for the first 15 million was higher than what we anticipated. I believe it was 25 million, I think it was a little bit more than the 6.6. So we're getting the principal forgiveness that we,
Even more than what we
I
did.
think it was a little bit more.
So. Other questions? Mr. Harding, this is your favorite topic.
Well, yeah. No, in fact, I tell you, I have no life. I spent the whole day today in a wastewater facility, okay? How exciting with a bunch
So
of.
I knew that you were our guy.
Yeah. So that's really exciting. I spent the day with a bunch of engineers looking at wastewater in a private facility, but put that aside. My first question, I want to go back to the treatment plant. So that's not a guaranteed contract. So it's in there for 130 million,
Well,
but
it's guaranteed.
it is guaranteed?
Yeah, that was the budget.
Okay, that is a guarantee. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. I didn't think.
Yeah, it's a
and again, the contract is a little less than 100 million, not including contingency.
Okay, so it is a guarantee. I forgot it because I saw the contract, but I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. That's terrific. Going back over your revenue side. So, do these revenue sources that you have, is that reflective of the same revenue sources that were presented 3 years ago?
Yes.
To part of it. So that's what this is. Okay.
I used the basis.
Use their numbers?
Yeah, the basis, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Now, the only thing that wasn't included in this set of presentations was solar and I forget the other one.
I think it's pretty well known we're not.
Yeah,
gonna have
yeah,
solar.
Yeah, solar was in there, but,
Right.
so let's go back we know for a fact that, well, it's public, so I'm not saying, that there's certain development, there's a $40 million development in that plan that was presented. It's not gonna happen, at least that's what the owner says, he's not gonna build. So that's an impact on this TIF revenue. I mean, Skull Island could potentially build something, but he's made it clear to people in the public, that's kind of not his plan. And if anything, it's not gonna be 40 million. There might be a residential property where the driving range is, and I'm not, so if that's the case, and I can't speak to those other development sites, but that's a big chunk of this TIF revenue. So,
So
I kept the diff revenue extremely low.
was that?
I kept it low. Cause I mean, like I said, last year, we have 17,000 of growth that we were able to
Yeah.
put aside.
So I don't know, but I think I can't speak for the rest of that development on the street, but there's certainly, that's a big chunk. The other thing is the short-term rental. So that's based on your current numbers you're seeing? Because your short-term rentals, those,
Yeah,
yeah, okay, so you feel comfortable.
so I think 1.4 is good. It's a little bit conservative. We brought
Good.
1.418 last
Okay.
year.
So on the debt side, I don't want to be a bearer of very bad news, but, the Trump administration has made it clear that they're going to wipe out SRF. I mean, will they get it done? I don't know. They're saying anywhere from 50 to 90%. There's that, but it's in the budget. It's in the president's budget, and they want to they want to move the responsibility from the federal government to the local governments and having local taxpayers pay whatever. Would the president be around 3 years from now? I don't think so. No, he's got last term, so that's okay. So
You can only last 3 years.
that's right. You can only last so long. So going back, my concern is, and what you're saying is totally accurate currently, but if in fact they cut out any SRF funding and they start messing around with your $50 million a year, which is a great idea. Will you just roll those notes over till something changes? Is that kind of the game plan?
Well, first
You're
of all,
up to what, 3 years? I forgot. How long can you go on a?
well, it's through SRF, so it's up to them. I could go longer than 3 years
Yeah,
if they
I thought it
let
was
me.
3. I thought they.
If I went to market, I
Yeah,
could,
3 years.
but since I'm going through
Yeah,
SRF,
yeah, right.
they can, if they want to hold it out there, they can hold it out there,
Yeah.
then they can pay the interest.
So that's
Who
good,
they're bothered.
because it's going to be their problem.
But I will
Right.
tell you, I've had insurances from DEP and the trust that they're committed to this
Oh, no question
207.
about it. Yeah.
That's not, and I'm filling out the paperwork for the third 50
Yeah.
million. So we're at 150 right now.
But I can tell you, I know.
No, I know.
At least one wastewater facility that I've done work for, I still talk to all the time. They've already been, they're projecting that they're very concerned. They have the same commitment. I talked to the wastewater. When Bill Scott was here, I called him, I talked to him, and I came back and he said, it's really great. They made the commitment for 207. That's wonderful. Just got to be careful on how you put it in the presentation, as far as the town meeting is concerned. But
I will tell you, I mean, there's obviously no assurances for 35
yeah,
Faber
yeah,
Hills. I mean,
yeah.
we'll apply,
yeah.
but I mean, what you said is
Yeah.
true, but. for the
And I want to
207,
applaud you for just doing what you're doing. I mean, what you're doing, we talked about it before. The idea of just doing these $50 million borrowings really makes all the sense in the world. And particularly, that's my only concern. What happens if that this thing blows up and, you're sitting on, you got a big project and I don't have the answer. I mean, how do you build stuff when you don't have any money? You got to wait for 3 years for administration change or something else happens. Certainly the legislative body's not going to help you. It's reality. But this is good. I appreciate all this. It at least gives us a better indication. But I am still concerned with the TIF revenue.
Right.
Because that's the largest project. It was $40 million in Skull Island.
Yep.
That Bill put in there. And unless something's happened in the last few weeks, and the owner stated he's not going to do anything of that magnitude if he does anything. But I guess that's all I had to ask. So thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
I had a few questions.
Listen,
So this is, I guess, more so for me being curious. I won't get into the details because we're not going to talk about it, but for contract 3, I think there was a quote in the newspaper from Bob about we have to go with the lowest bidder for contracts. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I can't, I mean, hindsight's
Or you can't.
2020. I mean, under the procurement law, you have to award to the lowest responsive and responsible eligible bidder.
Okay.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, that makes sense. I was just curious because would imagine there'd be additional conversations after contract 3, so that makes sense to me.
Yeah, with the, yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to go deeper. And then the other thing, like, with the diff, and this is just my ignorance, I don't know too much about like the revenue. Are we saying, are you attributing 100%, like, not in your projections, but if it were to be, whatever the number is, 100% of new business diff goes, like, because of the wastewater goes towards this project? On
Well, it
Route
would say new
28,
business, it would be commercial growth.
commercial growth.
So say you had, I'm just gonna use this as an example, but say you had a vacant lot of land on 28 and you
Yeah.
decided to build a restaurant, right? So now we're taxing that restaurant
Yeah,
because they're new and they pay taxes. That would be growth,
okay,
right?
so,
So that, we take that money and set that aside
and so that's,
to pay for the store. Any new
regardless.
development or additional development,
okay,
the money that comes from that. So like the best way I can explain it is, say you're going to build a garage on your house, right?
Mhm.
And say your house assessment is like 500,000 and you're like, oh, okay, let's build a garage. And your garage is 100,000. So now your assessment is 600,000, right? So you're gonna be
Yeah.
paying more because your assessment just went up. So that first year, when we take that 100,000 of new growth, that comes into a dollar amount because it's times the tax rate. So we would set that aside. Usually,
Okay.
any type of new growth funds the operating budget. When you look at, estimated revenue, you have your levy, 2.5. This is what we project. We project 300,000 for new growth. That's additional revenue growth in the community, construction growth, right?
Okay, yeah,
And so any of the commercial growth in this district on 28 gets set aside. It wouldn't fund the operating budget. You won't see it as a projection for the operating budget into the levy. It will get set aside in a different fund to pay for the wastewater.
okay. So I guess that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. So I guess my question is, because we've committed the money to the sewer project, which makes sense, is that going to be detrimental to other things in town that we would have potentially used that money for?
Right, we would have used it for the operating budget.
Yeah, so then do we have any sort of data on that? No.
I wasn't here when they did the diff, but it will any type of growth funds your operating budget because it adds to your levy. They just,
Got it.
so it
okay.
was decided to do a diff, so any commercial growth on 28 would pay for the SOAR project.
Right, which is.
I wasn't here when they did this, but it does take away from your
Yeah,
operating budget, yes.
okay,
But it's a defined district, so it's not the whole
Yeah.
town.
Hmm.
It's
But it's a
just
big-
that specific
Business
corridor.
district. Okay. That makes sense.
And I guess the best way you can put it, if you really want to put it into context, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, is you look at Mashpee and the growth over in Mashpee and the way that they've been able to sustain and not do any overrides or anything, and they do really well, financially, is because of Mashpee Commons. I mean, look
Yeah.
at the growth over there. It's crazy. And I don't know how they're funding their wastewater, so I won't talk to that, but back in the day, I'll say in the 2000s, we just knew it's like, we'd be struggling and Mashpee's like, oh, get all this new growth because of Mashpee Commons. I don't know what they've done in the last 10 or 15 years with it. Maybe it's funding their wastewater. I'm not sure, but yes.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. It'd be interesting to see that original projection. But it makes sense. I would,
If you'd like to see that, I could send
You
you
have
a
it?
copy. I do.
well, I'm not surprised. Thank you, Richard.
I will be glad to say. Would anybody else be interested in revisiting the past? It actually was a presentation deck from 2003, and it does do a lot of I forget how long it's a Bill Scott tome that runs many, many pages. But yes, I would be glad to forward that to anybody who's interested.
Great, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, back before I go back before the SRF. I mean, the city or town would just have to borrow and then apply to the feds and get some money, and that's how it worked. And it was always, the cities and towns were always well behind because they waited for the feds to come through. So it was a big It's a lot different then.
Yeah.
Well, one, can I just, one,
Yes,
just,
Mr. Hardy.
I'm sorry, one quick question on the Mass Works grant. Is that in? Is that already in? The
Yeah,
3.5 million?
yeah. I think we have to bill for another 190,000, but we've spent most of it, yes. We wanted to spend that right away.
Yeah, I know because the application originally, because I was working a little bit with Bill on it, was 10 million. And I thought, that's great. There's got 3.5. Is there any interest in all? Because they can go back in before June and maybe apply for another 3.5
Yeah.
million.
Ooh.
I didn't,
Well, the new assistant town manager, she knows all about this stuff. From her past, so I
Yeah, I
just throw
don't
that
know.
out there.
it's a good question.
Yeah.
We'll add that to the list. So you think that there's a opportunity potentially to
Well,
double
yeah,
dip?
you have to get it in by June, I think, is the date. But she's got a background in a lot of this kind of stuff, so.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Any I think, again, the whole point of this was to actually get, because we've had this as a sort of back of mind. So I thought this would be a good time to take a little breather from budgets. And I applaud Jennifer for pulling all this together, for remembering how this all worked together. But I would suggest at this point, unless people, because there's a lot to digest here, next week, we will have Jeff Colby and team here. And part of it will be wastewater. So that's it'll be a good chance if you do have additional questions related to the project, that would be a good time to ask them.
That's clear.
Yeah, this was a good way to set it up. I didn't want, be honest with you, I didn't want DPW here when I did this because this is just the financial cash flow. There's so much to this project.
Yeah.
And we can get off. And so next week when when Jeff presents his operating budget and if we talk about, the wastewater enterprise fund, then you can, ask all those other questions, think about, what we talked about here. And, I think it just worked better this way because it can be super
Totally agree.
overwhelming.
This was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is good.
I hope
So,
so.
so when we talk to Jeff, Jennifer, can you get an update every whatever, just to how we're moving along
Sure.
on some of this stuff?
Yeah.
In light of, in particular what I just said, I hope I'm totally wrong, and everybody else is wrong.
To get to the
But
front of the line.
if
is
this
what
is
I'm
our
saying.
money, you don't want to wake up and say, oh my God, now, so.
No, I would be more than, yeah, my hesitation at first was, like I said, there's a lot going on. I shouldn't say it that way, but, I can't really talk about contract fee right now. And sometimes I'm very conscious of get the chain of command. So I don't like to present things until they've the select, because I've never really presented this before, but I always think about the select board and then the finance committee. So when I talked to Bob was like, oh no, this would be great. But I was kind of hesitant at first because I didn't want to just put all this information, because there's a lot that I put out there that, haven't put out there before. So no, this worked out well. So I'd be more than happy to update you.
Mr. Anderson.
Do you have any sense of the, like how confident you are in the 35 million for Bayberry?
Well, we still
Like-
have a year of design.
Right,
left.
like what that could swing up, I would assume. I assume it's not going down, but
I never, it's hard.
yeah, okay. I'm just curious.
I will tell you, this has been super challenging for me in the respect that, I've been involved in a lot of projects. I've project managed from the town, the finances, been in construction meetings, but I've done a lot of vertical construction, and very, very familiar with vertical construction. It's so different because you're dealing with time and materials, you're dealing with, engineers and it's just,
Hydrologist.
yeah, it's just very, very different, and with the process, with DEP and
Sorry about that.
WMP. So it's hard for me to say the confidence in the
Yeah.
25.
I just to like the point about the operating budget, right? And it's like there's so much. It's like who's going to get on the warrant list first, right? Like the library, the school, whoever's on last is going to be out, is gonna lose out, right?
Yeah.
So,
Could very well.
I mean, no, I know, and if you look at Bob's presentation to the select board on the capital facility plan and the cost of that. You know, what I can say, it's just, you know, when you look back at that. There is a lot going on. There's a lot that, you know, needs to be done.
Yeah.
And
and when everything's tens of millions, right, it's,
And when I tell you about the flow and, you know, operating the plant, I mean, you can see now how important that 35 million is to this project.
Yeah, not only this.
Because
project.
right, that's my concern.
Yeah, we need to get the betterments in. I mean, we need to fulfill what this.
That's my
financial
concern
is,
of-
and we can't, and
If you had one thing to do,
Is but like, what is the public knowledge of that 35 million coming, right? As part of, well, not part of, but in addition to the 207, when they're comparing that with the library, the schools, the, you know, whatever
And
else,
that's what they're gonna do.
right? Yeah, they have to. Yeah, everyone's gonna do it.
Right.
So,
so are we ready to move on to our next agenda item? Next agenda item is the discussion and possible vote to provisionally recommend the FY 27 budgets for the Community Services Department. That includes natural resources, senior services, library, recreation, and golf. Is there, I mean, I can reference you back to the specific pages. So natural resources is on page 44. Senior services is 48. Library is 51. Recreation is 55, and golf covers 3 pages, 105 to 107.
Oh, I think somebody's actually.
Oh.
Yeah, it's.
That's public.
Oh,
He's here every.
sorry, I thought it was the panelist.
Tom,
Nick,
So,
I mean, I would make a motion to approve all community service
budgets
budgets
as presented, as printed in the,
to then the
I'd second that.
I have to recuse myself from that.
from the
library.
From
the library vote.
Do we need to do them one by one then?
We can do all except the library as a group, and then the library separately. Okay, so the motion will be for all, for natural resources, senior services, recreation, and golf as printed in the budget binder. It has been, a motion has been made to provisionally recommend those to town meeting by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Harding. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote. Alyssa?
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, so that carries 5-0. Specifically on the library, again, Alyssa has indicated she is going to recuse herself. But I would entertain a
I'll
motion
make a
to
motion that we.
Mr. Harding. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, roll call vote, you're recused.
aye,
Aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, so that carries 4-0-1. Okay. The last, next up, Finance Director update. We just briefly discussed the monthly financials are up for the first half of the year about to come out.
Yeah, and I've looked, we like to send them out to department heads first, just to see if they see anything. And our estimate, the big indicator on how we're doing with the budget really is our estimated local receipts, because it's economic driven, and we're really doing okay there. The only thing we're a little bit behind, we're really behind is the sanitation. But we've upped those fees, and I gotta see if there's any outstanding bills for that. But other than that, it seems like we're on track, a little bit ahead. And we'll see what the motor vehicle commitment will be. We usually have the big motor vehicle, you know, when your excise taxes due. That should be going up Usually goes up like.
Just got it.
I got mine.
Just paid it last night.
I paid it.
That will be
Paid
an
mine.
indicator of how we're doing as well, but we're on track.
Well, I was gonna say also the solid waste, a lot of that's the C and D. And so if the revenue is down, means the expenses are down. So it's not like it's not a one-sided part of the equation. Any other updates that you want to give?
Oh. Talked out.
Talked out, okay. I had hoped to have the minutes for this meeting available. We did not get them finished. I think snow may have played a role. So we will reconsider those next week, I hope. Quick, some updates. I did send everybody the information about the Cherry Sheet and Chapter 70 figures. Just as the town administrator noted as part of his budget presentation, this is going to be extremely difficult. All of the way the formulas work, every way the formula could work against us is working against us. So we are meeting with Dennis Yarmouth and the district staff on Friday to go through some of this. But that is going to be a challenge. There's just no two ways about it. And we'll hear more in the upcoming weeks. We also, I have asked for additional information from the school district related to their budgets, as well as their head counts, because 70% of their budget is head counts. So theoretically, they should have, based on the commitment that they made for the COVID funding that they got, they were supposedly going to reduce 33 positions out of their head count. So I just want to confirm that has indeed happened. And so school vacation actually is coming up. Not this week, but next week. I got that right. Dr. Smith couldn't do so. So Dr. Smith is going to be on with us on the 11th, and that is going to be a sole one. It's all going to be all the DY district all night long. So next week will be DPW. Following week will be the district. As Jennifer noted, though, we don't have a lot of leverage. So, also on, Dr. Smith is also scheduled to meet with the select board regarding the Emmy Small School project. He had some concerns about some of the statements that were made the last time the select board met about that. So he's going to have an opportunity to meet with the select board about that project. I think I did mention last week that we are still waiting for the MSBA, Mass School Building Authority, to invite us into the feasibility stage. So far, we haven't spent any money on this project, and that would be at the earliest the end of February, and that starts a 2.5-year project. Feasibility study is a 2.5-year project. We haven't put shovels in the ground. We're just.
No, I know that's all I'm doing.
Mhm. Okay. Are there other items that you would be interested in reviewing before? Yes, sir.
I think Mr. Anderson here has a very good point about the Springtown meeting, asking for money. You know, it may get very ugly.
You know, and again, our job is to
Yeah.
provide the public with the
Yeah.
best information that we can. So I'm not, so let's, let's take our role seriously here. Next week also, I am hoping to have a draft of the required submittal by the finance committee to, that appears in the annual town report. So that's another thing that's also in the queue. So anybody who wants to, I'll bring the initial draft, and anybody who would like to improve it will be,
Where's George?
we'll have that opportunity. Other items, other than that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I was just curious about our snow budget, but we can talk about that next week.
Well, I mean, I think the most recent budget report, we were like 400,
480,
480 in the red.
yep,
The expenses.
right, and that was only through December,
What do we budget for that every year?
Like,
like 200 money.
Yeah.
Well, again, so the way the snow budget works is you're only required to budget what you budgeted the last year. And there have been,
Yeah.
We've been lucky.
I mean, there's been so many years we didn't spend it.
So basically, if you increase the snow and ice budget, you can never decrease it. It's in Mass General Law, but you can overexpend and find other funding sources because it's all over the place. And the last thing you want to do is tie up your budgeted money in snow and ice, where you know you have other funding sources, especially if you have years where you don't even use it as much as what's budgeted. Do you know what I mean?
So my dad was former DPW. I heard the whole thing on the ride home yesterday.
there you go.
We were just talking and I realized I didn't know the budget number for this year and I assumed we went over it. So
think
just
it's like-
curious where we are.
Yeah, it's like but the expenses haven't come in from the storm yet. And then,
Yeah.
we're supposed to get another storm. It's so hard to, I'll look at it, but I'll
It is
have a
what it is,
projected
but yeah.
number for the April town meeting and it's gonna come from free cash.
Yeah.
I was hoping.
197.
I was hoping Jeff Kobe come here. I want to tell him, I think these roads are unbelievable. How well they plowed.
I
I mean, maybe it's just me. I don't know. I've been driving
They did a
all
good job.
town. I can't believe how well they did it.
yeah. I mean, I remember, and I had a couple of people on the community page sort of complaining when, because they had that light snow the
Yeah,
next night.
yeah.
And, the roads are in horrible condition. I was like, holy cow, they just,
Oh, they got ahead of it.
yeah,
Get up on the tunnels, yeah.
so stop complaining. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Anderson, do I hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I am an aye as well, carries 5-0 at 9:07. Ben, you got that right?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank you.